Loneliness is an emotion so uniquely human that we've built an entire modern infrastructure around avoiding it. We have smartphones, social media, streaming services, dating apps, and a constant hum of connectivity that would have seemed like science fiction just 50 years ago. Yet somehow we're lonelier than ever. But here's what almost nobody asks. Did ancient humans ever feel lonely? Because if loneliness is a uniquely modern problem, it should be uniquely modern, right? But what if it isn't? Let me start with something uncomfortable. Loneliness isn't about being physically alone. You can be surrounded by thousands of people and feel desperately, achingly lonely. Loneliness is about disconnection. It's about a gap between the relationships you have and the relationships you want. It's about feeling unseen, unheard, or fundamentally different from the people around you. And the second you understand that definition, the timeline of loneliness suddenly shifts backward, way backward. Here's what we know about ancient humans. They lived in tribes of roughly 50 to 150 people. Everyone knew everyone else. There was no escape. You woke up in the same cave or shelter. You hunted with the same people. You ate with the same people. You slept near the same people. In modern terms, we'd call this a complete lack of privacy. But what happens when you're forced into constant proximity with a group of humans and you're fundamentally different from them? What happens when you're an introvert in a tribe of extroverts? What happens when you see the world differently than everyone around you? Anthropologists have discovered evidence suggesting that ancient tribes sometimes had members who didn't quite fit. People who were neurodivergent or had different sexual orientations or simply had personality types that didn't mesh with the group norm. And while we can't know exactly what they felt, we can extrapolate from what we know about human neurology. The human brain hasn't fundamentally changed in 10,000 years. The same neurochemistry that makes you feel isolated and disconnected today would have made an ancient human feel isolated and disconnected then. But there's something else, something darker. Ancient humans didn't have the luxury of being alone. They couldn't afford it. Solitude meant vulnerability. Vulnerability meant death. A human alone on the savannah isn't a threat to a lion. A human alone is a meal. So, if you felt different from your tribe, if you felt like an outsider, you still had to stay. You still had to show up every day and pretend to belong, because the alternative was literally lethal. Now, think about that. You're living with people who don't understand you, people you might not even like, and you can't leave. You can't find new friends on the internet. You can't move to a different city. You can't order delivery and spend the evening alone. You're stuck, day after day, night after night, surrounded by faces that don't see you. Some ancient humans probably dealt with this by developing incredibly thick social skills, by learning to code switch and perform a version of themselves that fit better with the tribe. Others probably just suffered in silence, and some might have found their tribe within the tribe, a few people who understood them, because even in groups of 50, there are often at least one or two people who get you, who see you, and maybe that's enough. But here's the really interesting part. We have evidence that some ancient humans actually chose isolation. Archaeologists have found remains of individuals who lived on the edges of settlements, people who seemed to intentionally distance themselves from the main group. Why would someone do that if it meant death? Because maybe, just maybe, being alone was better than being lonely. Maybe the psychological pain of being surrounded by people who didn't understand you was worse than the physical danger of solitude. There's a difference that modern humans often miss. Loneliness and aloneness are not the same thing. You can be alone and feel connected to something larger. You can be alone and feel at peace, but you can be surrounded by people and feel profoundly, overwhelmingly disconnected. So, did ancient humans feel lonely? Almost certainly. They felt it in the same way you feel it, the same neurochemistry fired, the same ache in the chest, the same sense of being trapped outside looking in at a world that everyone else seemed to understand. But they couldn't name it, they couldn't talk about it, they couldn't post about it on social media, or call a therapist, or find a community of people who felt the same way online. They just had to carry it, which means loneliness isn't a modern invention. It's ancient, it's wired into the human experience. What's modern is the volume. What's modern is the irony of having infinite connection and still feeling infinitely alone. What's modern is the ability to see thousands of other people's lives and realize how different yours is. That's the novelty. The loneliness itself, that's as old as we are.